Green Acres is a place to be. Farm living is a life for me. Land spread now so far and wide. Keep Manhattan, just give me that countryside. New York is where I'd rather stay. I get allergic smelling hay. I just adore a penthouse view. Darling, I love you, but give me Park Avenue. The chores. Fresh air. Times Square.
Times Square.
You are my wife. Goodbye, city life. Green Acres, we are there. Dump, dump. There we go. All right. Good. Y'all done good. Y'all done good. Right. You are my wife.
Goodbye, city life.
Green Acres, we are there. Gosh, that was great.
That was good.
We could play Mr. and Mrs. Douglas, except you'd have to get blonde hair, and I don't know what I'd have to do.
And one of those little feather things.
Oh, you'd have to have, that negligee that Miss Gabor had.
Yeah.
And I'd have become very distinguished like Mr. Douglas.
That's right. Well, he was very distinguished, wasn't he?
Very distinguished, yeah.
It seemed like he was a little bit out of his element on that show.
Well, he was, and that's what made it funny, because that's called a fish out of water.
Yeah.
Anytime you do any kind of a comedy show, and you always have a fish out of water, it's a funny situation. Or if you have even a drama and you have a fish out of water situation, like Beverly Hillbillies was like country folks that went to Beverly Hills. Well, naturally, that's funny. And so Green Acres was city folks that came to the country. Mr. and Mrs. Douglas. Ava Gabor, she was from Hungary, and he had married her over there, and then he became a lawyer in New York.
Yeah.
And she loved the limelight and the parties and all that sort of stuff, and she didn't want to go out to Hooterville and try to cook, and you could tell she didn't know anything about it. She cooked hot water soup. No wonder I'm so thin.
And I love the coffee.
The coffee was chocolate syrup, and the hot cakes were made out of foam rubber, and then I ate spaghetti right out of the box. And Mr. Douglas said, Lisa, honey, he said, what are we having for lunch today? She said, we having spaghettis, darling. And so she'd take the spaghetti out of the box and throw it on his plate. And he said, Lisa, honey, he says, but you don't eat it right out of the box. You have to cook it. And he says, nobody in their right mind is going to eat spaghetti out of a box. And I'm over there biting it off, eating it like crazy, going, golly, Miss Douglas makes the best the best spaghetti in the whole valley.
I remember that one. I used to love the old Green Acres show. And by the way, we need to tell everybody that we're at Green Acres Homes in Union City, Tennessee.
Green Acres Mobile Homes?
Yes.
Manufactured homes.
The exclusive Fleetwood Home Sales Center.
Which is the #1 manufactured home in the world. Is Fleetwood. Mm-hmm. They're the biggest, and they have the best manufactured home in the world, absolutely beyond a shadow of a doubt. Yeah. So.
Well, that's good to know. And also a local tie-in here for you folks in Murray.
Yeah.
They also own the Riviera Court there.
Right, absolutely.
All right, well, tell us about yourself. Now, I was really surprised when I got here. I was telling him earlier that he has not changed a bit. I mean, he still looks exactly like the old Eb that we all know from TV.
She's being very kind, ladies and gentlemen. Our show began in 1965, and we were canceled in 1971, so it's been 32 years.
Wow, that's a long time, and it just seems like yesterday.
Well, I was 25, really, when the show started, and I'm 59 now.
Wow. Well, you've held up good, Eb.
Well, thank you. Well, I take a lot of vitamins. Mr. Douglas, Eddie Albert got me started taking a lot of vitamins, and I take antioxidants and try to eat right. I don't eat any fat, and I exercise every day. I get up, in California, I get up about 5 o'clock and go to the gym and exercise about an hour and a half. And
just one of those regular Hollywood guys, huh?
All day long now, so I'm a little tired right now, but I'm in good shape.
Now, where are you originally from? You have a natural Southern accent, I can tell.
I do. I'm from Laurel, Mississippi, and I went out to California when I was about 23. I majored in chemistry and biology from the University of Mississippi. And I always felt like God wanted me to go to Hollywood, be an actor, and my friends said, well, you'll never make it because you're too tall and too skinny and you're too ugly. And you have a Southern accent. You don't look like Rock Hudson. And so I thought maybe I couldn't make it in Hollywood, and tried a lot of things and just wasn't happy. And finally I just said, I'm going to Hollywood, and I'm going to try to get in the movies. And if I don't make it, that's okay. At least I'm going to try. And so I got out there, and sure enough, through our church, I met a wonderful drama coach and studied with her. And I did some little theater work and was seen by Mr. Paul Henning, who created, produced Beverly Hillbillies, and he had me go over and try for Ebb, and I got the part.
Wow. Boy, that's a great story.
Which was really something, because they had tested 400 guys for the part.
Really? 400 guys?
400, yeah, and all of them had more experience than I did, but I was Ebb in real life, so I got the part.
Well, that worked out good. Ebb was really such a great character on the show. How would you describe Ebb?
Well, Ebb was real naive and believed everything everybody told him. And Mr. and Mrs. Douglas, see, he didn't really have a mom and dad.
Now, he was the farmhand, right?
Farmhand, and I worked for Haney, see, and then he sold the old Haney place to Mr. and Mrs. Douglas.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's how, okay.
And they never said what happened to my mom and dad, but I didn't really have one, and I wanted a mom and dad, so I just started calling Mr. Douglas dad and Mrs. Douglas mom. And he would say, look, I'm not your father. And Lisa would say, oh, Oliver, our son. And he says, he's not our son, Lisa. And so I just wanted to believe that Mr. and Mrs. Douglas were my mom and dad. And I just was a wonderful, there were some things that I didn't know. Well, like, for instance, when I would go out on a date, I'd part my hair and then stick my head in the refrigerator in the freezing part to freeze the part in my hair. Well, see, I thought that was really cool. And I wasn't really stupid, I guess, but it was just weird things that Ebb did. And I was kind of like that. But I was very believable because I believed all that stuff. And Ebb was just a good guy, and everybody liked him. And he was a little worrisome, but everybody liked Ebb.
Well, everybody liked all the characters, I think. I think all the characters on Green Acres were great. Every one of them, Mr. Biziffle and Arnold, of course.
Yeah, Arnold was his son. Yeah. Only two human beings
pork
in the
chops
world.
By now.
Oh, no, what a terrible thing to say. Not make pork chops out of Arnold.
How many Arnolds did you go through?
Oh, gosh, we went through about 19, I think, in all those years, yeah. Yeah, we had to train new pigs every year because, see, those little kind of pigs grow up to, in a year's time, they weigh about 400 pounds. Yeah. So we always had to have a little pig. Yeah.
Well, what about Alf and Ralph?
Alf and Ralph. There was Mary Grace Canfield and Sid Melton. Sid Melton used to be on the Danny Thomas Show. And they were wonderful, great people.
And the extension agent, what was it?
County agent, Mr. Kimball.
Yeah, Mr. Kimball. I couldn't think of that. We were trying to think of him. We couldn't remember his name.
He died this year. He died. I was with him when he passed away. I heard him breathe 3 times and he fell over dead. It was a terrible thing. Yeah. We were working on a little project together, and he was my best friend in the world. And,
really?
Yeah, and he passed away. It was very sad. He was 75 years old, but it's just one of those things that happens. He was a fine Christian man. He's on his way to heaven, or he's in heaven, and so we'll all join him up there one of these days. Yeah.
Well, that's great. What about Mr. Haney?
Mr. Douglas. Mr. Haney was wonderful. Pat Buttram, all those folks.
Our cameraman sounds like Mr. Haney.
Does he? He doesn't look like him, thank goodness. Mr. Pat Buttram was with Gene Autry all those years. And that one eye that kind of looked off out in a different direction, that happened. He got a cannon blew up on the Western and blew up in his eye. And that's what messed his eye up.
Well, goodness. So the whole series and everything, it lasted how long?
It lasted 6 years, from 1965 to 1971.
Of course, it's still in syndication heaven. I mean, it's running everywhere.
Running everywhere on TV land, sometimes on Nickelodeon.
Yeah, I've caught it on Nickelodeon.
So everybody needs to watch it because it's a good, clean television show like Beverly Hillbillies and Green Acres and Petticoat Junction and My Three Sons and Amos and Andy. And, well, of course, they can't show that anymore. Bonanza, Gunsmoke, all the shows were all wonderful, clean family. Lucy. Hogan's Heroes, all those great old shows were really good shows and were made under the old movie code, which was really set up by the churches across America. And then the movie industry abandoned the code in about 1969, and it gradually began to change, and America began to become, even the people themselves began to become a little bit more liberal, and then we had judges that came up with this First Amendment stuff and said that you could say all kinds of language and use nudity and all that stuff, and it was never intended by our forefathers. That's carrying freedom of speech too far, and it has nothing to do with censorship. It just has to do with, they would have never allowed this in the beginning of our country.
Morals.
Yeah.
Morality.
We have a very strong Mosaic heritage. And, of course, the Ten Commandments, the Bible, our Mosaic heritage was our value system. of our forefathers, and that's what wrote the Constitution. And we've gotten away from that.
Yeah.
Now we're making the Constitution say what we want it to say.
Right.
See, let me tell you something that's really stupid. In the Supreme Court, up above the Supreme Court, and that's government property, isn't it? They have the Ten Commandments in the chamber of the Supreme Court, and they pray in the Senate and they pray in the Congress, but kids can't pray in school.
Yeah.
I mean, what a disaster. Yeah. And in Kentucky,
I agree, totally.
Is this station in Kentucky?
Yes.
Well, in Kentucky, they took the Ten Commandments off the wall, and they out in the schoolroom, so they asked the people that were responsible for that, they said, why would you take the Ten Commandments off? And they said, because we were afraid. Now listen to this, all you folks out there in Kentucky, this is your leadership. They said, why did you take the Ten Commandments off? They said, because we're afraid that the children might look upon them and it would affect their lifestyle. So what are we going to do? We're going to, but it's okay to talk about condoms in school, and it's okay to push condoms on grade school children and all that stuff, but you can't have the Ten Commandments where a kid comes by and reads the Ten Commandments. That's not forcing religion down anybody. You don't have to read it if you don't want to. See, they say that because we become so pluralistic in our society today, then we don't want to offend a Hindu out here, or we don't want to offend a Buddhist, or we don't want to offend an agnostic, or we don't want to offend an atheist. Well, listen, in this country, atheists, Hindus, Buddhists, whatever religion you are, have more freedom than they do almost in their own country. They can worship like they want to. They can do anything they want to do. But they're not going to make our laws because our forefathers, our country was founded on the Judeo-Christian ethic. We have to have some kind of absolute to govern our actions, don't we? For instance, if we had to make a law, and I said, well, I think we ought to make the law this way, and these dear people out here watching television said, well, we ought to make the law this way, and somebody else says, well, we ought to make this kind of law, we got chaos. So all of us, you folks out there on TV, you and I, all of us, we all have to have some kind of absolute to govern our actions, right? We have to have something to look at that says, okay, let me tell you what's really right and wrong. Well, what's really right and wrong? The Bible tells us. The Mosaic Law. Now, that's what our country was set up on. You go to the Arab countries, they go by their law. You go to a Hindu country, they go by their laws. Well, in our country, our forefathers came to this country and set up all our laws up on the Judeo-Christian ethic, the Mosaic Law. That's what our laws are on. So we're not going to let the Hindus tell us what to do. We're not going to let the Buddhists tell us what we do. We're not going to let the atheists or the agnostics or anything else tell us what to do, because our laws were founded on the Mosaic Law. That's what our laws were founded on. And that's what we have to have a stable society. But because of all this pluralism in our country today, we have now this politically correct junk. We've gotten off on a tangent. We're out here setting up all kinds of situation ethics, making our own laws. We're going crazy. We have, over almost 2 million abortions every year. 60% of people are ending in divorce. AIDS is rampant across our country. Venereal disease is rampant because we have no laws anymore. We won't let a kid read the Bible anymore. We won't let him look at the Ten Commandments or tell him what's right and wrong. Nobody knows what's right and wrong anymore. We have a disaster in America, because our leadership in our schools and our political leadership all don't have the guts. And that's what it is, to take a stand and say, hey, this is it. This is what we're going to do. You don't like it? Don't look at it. That's what we need to have. Boy, I tell you, you got me on my cotton-picking stool here. I have to get off of it.
You need to run for office.
Well, they wouldn't vote for me. They call me radical.
I don't know. There's a lot of Christians out there.
I'm telling you, that's what it is. You get a guy that takes a stand in life and says, hey, folks, listen, this is the way it is. This is what our forefathers believed in. This is where our Constitution was written in. This is the way I'm gonna vote if I'm in Congress and Senate. Oh, he's radical, he's radical, he's radical, and they throw you out.
I don't know. I think you might have a pretty good shot at it.
I don't know. Anyway.
Got a pretty good set of pipes on you there.
I'll have to run.
Yeah, you need to do
that. Run for the borders, what I'll do. Oh, me, anyway.
Oh, well,
I just went in my little political thing, but that's all right.
I appreciate that political commentary.
All right, and there we go. This is the CBS Evening News, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, I tell you what, it's real refreshing to know that, Eb, you are very smart.
Well, I just try to see what's going on in the country.
And I guess we probably ought to tell the folks what your real name is, by the way.
Tom Lester. Tom Lester.
Tom Lester, and I'm sure everybody's seen that name go across their TV screen a lot over the years. Well, we really do appreciate you taking time out. We're down here. Tell everybody what you're here for at Green Acres.
Well, I'm here to advertise Green Acres manufactured homes, and I came and did some commercials for them, and we're just having a little personal appearance thing today.
And it's really been a big success, hasn't it?
Well, I tell you, I started signing autographs at 8:45 and I haven't stopped yet, except to be interviewed by you.
Yeah. Well, we really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us.
It's been wonderful. And if you need a mobile home, you need to come buy one from Green Acres Manufactured Homes in Union City.
That's right.
Okay, good.
You heard it from Eb, folks.
All right, folks.
Thanks for talking to us.
Bye.
Green
Green Acres is the place to be.
Home living is the life for me.
Brian, say one.
Land spreading out so far and wide.
Keep Manhattan, just give me that countryside.
New York is where I'd rather stay. I get the logic smelling, hey? I just adore a penthouse view. Darling, I love you, but give me Park Avenue.
What's it? The chores.
The stars. Fresh air.
Times Square. You are my wife.
Goodbye, city life.
Green Acres, we are there. Dump, dump.
That's great.
Here we go. All right.